Could you please explain to us what the color wave is?
Yeah, of course. Color Wave, we've been collaborating with Makeup in Paris for 2 years now. And the Color Wave is defining what the color for the next year will be. So at the contrary of other companies like Pantone, who talk about what is happening now in fashion and design, we define what will be the color for beauty, especially makeup, in 2020. This season, for 2020, for the entire year actually, we believe that beetroot will be one of the main colors. We don't believe in dictatorship when it comes to colors. For us, beetroot is a starting point, and you can exploit it as an idea of happy eco. The idea is that before, eco colors were brown, beige, maybe green, but we believe that young consumers who believe or who live the eco movement already on a daily basis still want happy colors and high payoff and beautiful textures. So we kind of want to challenge the visitors of Makeup In to go towards that direction.
And what gave you the idea that it is beetroot?
So actually we have a whole process of forecast. Unfortunately, I didn't find yet the magical crystal ball that explains what the next color is. So normally twice a year we've got a think tank with experts, sociologists, medical experts, psychologists, color psychologists, historians, who just brainstorm of what the consumer behaviors of the future will be. Based on that and on aesthetic movements that we see emerging in art, design, and different things that pollinate the beauty movements as well. We map out different colors, and there was a lot of discussion about cold and warm colors inspired by nature that kind of sit in between. And then we thought it's a nice story to talk about beetroot, because you can actually create makeup pigments based on beetroot. So it all came together like that.
Could you provide some examples in what areas this color will materialize?
It will be in makeup, because we really specifically focus on makeup. The reason why these colder colors is because we see a big movement in makeup towards colder colors emerging already from indie brands, and in hair color actually. So it's always interesting to look into different fields as well. Even purples and hair color are a big trend now, starting in Japan, and that will probably spread worldwide.
Can you provide some examples of pigments that could be used in that trend?
Big corporations like L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, etc. explore right now 100% natural pigments that or formulations that are 100% natural, that are Klein blue or purple, etc. Some of them are root pigments actually.
What was this year's big trend that you identified for 1919?
The big color wave that we identified already in 2018 for 19 was the bold neutral trend. So what about neutrals? Neutrals normally by definition are something that is retained. But if you apply neutral grayish colors on lips, for example, it becomes a bold statement. So you can be minimalist because it looks like a designery kind of Jill Sander color. But at the same time, it looks very bold because it's on your lips. The challenge in those kind of colors, of course, are the textures, because if you do it in matte, it may look like a zombie, and you want to have something that is alive with pigments that are sparkly or pearlescent, for example.
What were the latest trends you identified in the field of male cosmetics?
So in male cosmetics, especially for the very young consumers who are often a little bit insecure by definition because they're young, we see actually makeup, a lot of makeup. So there we see two different entry points for makeup emerging and becoming bigger in the future. The first one is the more mainstream approach through the skincare segment. So you can imagine just a cream that gives you a direct color benefit, but you don't call it foundation because otherwise maybe male consumers wouldn't like it. If you go for a more dramatic point of view on makeup, we could also talk about accessories for your face. So instead of talking about beautifying or prettifying formulations or colors, we talk about accessories on your face, extending your fashion statement. So you can imagine Pharrell Williams, who has a lot of jewelry and a lot of big chains and Rolexes, to have things that resonate in his face with those trends that he's wearing as well.
Are there other topics that you've done research into in recent months?
There's so many topics actually, so it will be hard to focus on one. If I had to have one more long-term prediction for China, for example, is that I think the next big thing that already starts and will be even bigger is fragrance in China, for example. Right now, there's already a huge interest in niche brands coming from America and Europe. The Chinese consumer, who's very sophisticated, is kind of over the mainstream Dior, Chanel, etc. They look for something that's very special. So the next big thing will be to crack what is the right format that you can do in Asia or in China specifically in perfume, as there is not a deep culture of perfume. What is interesting is that you have the TCM, the traditional Chinese medicine, that is very fragrant. So there's certainly something to do around those lines.